Hey everybody, it's Justin from Check-in Easy. We have an awesome special guest today, Tori Klein, who is the director of UNLV Foundation and Institutional Events. She's one of our great clients and users of Check-in Easy, and she's here for a couple minutes today to kind of share some for her experiences with Check-in Easy and the different ways she's used it because she hasn't just used it for check-in. And then also, she's been doing events for a long time, and she's got some really great tips to share with you. So, Tori, thanks so much for being here with us.
I'm delighted to be here, Justin. I'm a big fan. So, thank you so much for including me and inviting me today. Well, I just wanted to. The reason I've been doing events so long is because I'm old. I'm 50, and I've been doing this, if
No.
you can believe it, for 30 years or more, and in a variety of different capacities. So, but I'm new to the university and the academic setting. But at the end of the day, events are events. You have there are always guests that are more demanding than others. There are always people that have to be recognized. The paper list thing is cumbersome and difficult, and it makes an evening's event, when you have so many moving parts,
Yeah.
incredibly difficult and challenging. And I've been looking for years for a tool that would really give us the ability, would release me from carrying around a notebook all night so that I could do the job I needed to do, which is to solve problems. I mean,
Right.
we had over 75 volunteers work with us this particular evening, and I'll give you a little image of what the event was.
Yeah.
It was October 9th. Um, the foundation is the fundraising arm of the university. So all the money that flows into the university comes to the foundation first before it goes out to scholarships, to students, to the colleges. Um, we're only about 50, just over 50 years old. So a lot of our donors that started with us in the beginning are actually still alive. But we do have an older donor base, as is often the case in most universities. This event, traditionally, we have about 500 guests attend. Last year it increased, we had over 600. This year we secured
Wow.
former President Bill Clinton as our keynote, and we
Wow.
knew we would have a large guest list. And it ended up being over 1,000.
Wow.
So, yeah, and as a result of that, because his fee is so big, we also had to sell. It cost a lot more to put on the event. And before we could actually get to the point where we could commit and send out invitations, we actually sold. This event is fairly inexpensive in terms of what it costs our attendees, but we haven't been charging for it for very many years. So the concept of selling tables at high prices is really a new thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
But before we started, and before we actually mailed the invitation, we'd sold all of our $20,000 tables. We had four price points of our tables: 20,000, 7,000, 500, 5,000, and 3,000. And our tickets were $200 a piece. And we
Okay.
really only had a few left of the 3,000 and the 5,000 tables by the time the invitations dropped, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, every single table level had separate benefits because we had to make those $20,000 guest table purchasers feel
Right.
special and down the line. So, as if it isn't complicated enough to take care of over 1,000 guests at a dinner, we had two simultaneous receptions at the same time. Um, there were all the guests at the $20,000 tables were invited to attend what we called our chef's reception, which was for VIPs. We had all the guests, or two guests from each table at the 7,500 point, and then all the guests from 5,000, 3,000, and the ticket holders went to the main reception that was held in the area just below the ballroom where we were holding dinner.
Right.
So that was complicated in and of itself. So it meant when we checked in guests, we had to know, as we checked them in, which reception they were going to, and therefore as well as what table they were going to. That was really important from the get-go. And it's complicated. If you're doing paper notebooks, you realize it's just a lot of information to share.
Totally.
So Check-in Easy actually solved a lot of problems for us because we realized in order to make Check-in Easy smart, we had to think through those key, how to define the key components to make it work. So when guests came up to us, we had their name, their last name, the number of guests that might be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also had we had a code that was for the special reception, and then we had another code. We had another bit of a moving part. Once we got guests seated at the dinner, about 20 minutes after their entree was served, we moved 4 guests from the top tier tables into a private photo session with President Clinton. All those guests had to be pre-vetted by the Secret Service, so we had each one of those tables had a development officer assigned to that table to go and get those guests and move them out of the room into a separate room to do the queue them up, photo line, get their photo taken, and then we had to meet them and then bring them back into the room so that we could finish up the program and have Clinton speak. And we had to do all of that from 5:15 and end it no later than 9:15. And we did it. But it was check-in easy without a doubt that made the difference. I just want you to seriously know that. So when guests arrived, we had 9 check-in stations. They were manned by hotel school students that were supported by my foundation staff volunteers. And so when a guest checked in, it was really simple. They entered their name and we found them and then we checked them in. But there was a code next to the name that had either had a special code that said X if they were a VIP. It had their table number, and then it had BC if they were going into Clinton. So if, for example, and we also knew if their table number, if they were odds, they were seated on the left side of the room. If there was an even number, they were seated on the right side of the room, which also helped us logistically when we were getting people to their seats. So they checked in, the support staff would write down their table number, so it means we didn't have to have all of that done in advance. We wrote that down, and we also confirmed their dietary restrictions because our first course was preset. And all of that information, guests never let you know the way they ought to about their dietary restrictions. And the nice thing is we were working with the Bellagio, who is and we also simplified our first course. So the first course was fish and seafood, but if they were vegan or gluten-free or anything, there was only one substitution for that. So it was an easy, quick thing. But we knew for this event to work, what mattered was getting everybody checked in successfully, and then the second point was getting everyone in their seat on time. We got everyone with 9 check-in stations for 1,030 guests. We never had a line.
Awesome.
Never.
Awesome.
And one of the things we did that I'll probably do differently next year is I didn't want to have that long queue, those, how people set up with the long tables with A through blah, blah, blah. Obviously everyone could check in, anyone.
Right.
And instead of having guests, because we needed a workstation because people needed to write their table number down, I didn't want them seated at those low, long, sick tables. I wanted them up and at eye contact with the guest. So we put our check-in folks at cocktail tables. Next time I'd probably use spandex linen so that guests don't trip over tablecloths. That's a good tip. But I'd also probably still keep them in a linear fashion. We sort of had them as a V, and then it was in the middle of a large hallway so that the guests could then flow through back behind and enter the ballroom. Or if they were going to the chef's reception, the student would raise their hand and the development officer would come and get those guests and escort them down to our special reception, where we used check-in easy again to, if anything, just for a preventative measure to prevent crashers, because it showed guests that we knew what we were doing and we knew who we expected to be in that room.
Right.
And because guests that were being taken down to that reception were being escorted, people who always have a sense of their importance, and because we don't call this a VIP reception, we call it a chef's reception, they were less likely to crash that event.
Right.
Anyway, so that happened, and then when it was time to move guests into dinner, we used our jazz students, the brass section from our jazz program, and the trumpeters blew the horns at different points throughout, and that cued guests. But actually, before that happened, we moved half of our check-in students with their iPads and check-in easy into key points already predetermined into the ballroom.
Right.
And then we moved our students, all of our students. We had about 20 students, hotel school students that were working, and they had welcome signs. And they are human breadcrumbs as guests enter the hotel from valet to get to the ballroom.
Yep.
On the back of their sign was the floor plan.
Wow.
And So we used those students at 6:10 when it was time to move everybody in. We moved those students with their signs into key points in the ballroom. So those 20 students plus the 5 check-in easy iPad students got every single guest down and in their seat, over 1,000 guests in less than 15 minutes.
Wow, that's
And it's
awesome.
impossible. It felt like a miracle because this is a heavy networking event, and people love to visit, and they just don't sit down. So I highly recommend trumpeters if you can get them. I highly recommend giving your guests a tool to be able, additional ways to find their seat, and then thinking about how you use Check-in Easy beyond just check-in. You use it as a resource to help your guests. They're incredibly appreciative and helpful. And it also helps you in the ballroom when you've got people that don't know, that are that are taking care of their own seating and deciding that they want to sit at a table of their own design.
Yeah.
It's a quick way for some people who are empowered to be leaders in the room to go in and solve those problems on the fly instead of making the hotel solve those issues.
Right.
I never thought about that, and I didn't really think about using that until the evening, and it really was a wonderful solution, and it was helpful for the hotel.
Did you, at the end of the event, reconcile the list? Like last year's, did you guys do it by hand, and now you're able to kind of just log in, download the list, and it says, Stacy Smith checked in at 4 or 5 p.m. Did that save you guys a lot of time? Did you kind of utilize that function?
Well, normally by the time we finish the event, we're so exhausted. We're focused on the financials.
Yeah.
That's what matters most.
Right.
But by the time we get to the reconciliation, honestly, we at some point, sometimes months later, it gets they check it all off back in Razor's Edge. That's the tool we use.
Yep.
This year, it was amazing. We printed a list once we got our dinner committee together. We printed a list of the folks that had not checked in because we wanted to find out if anyone else had seen them. There were some people that we knew off the bat that had bypassed us, that we knew that were there, but we wanted additional eyes. So we were able to figure out that there were about 50% of that list actually did attend, and either their friends, they found their people and they moved them in or whatnot. But there were about another 50% that actually had paid and didn't come. And that was helpful for us to know. It'll be helpful for us in future years, a few more years, as we aggregate that information to see if we can have a bigger wait list, for example.
Right.
Because we start sending people away, and if we have a wait list and we have those guests come, odds are we'll be able to accommodate them. That's very important. And that's the other thing that Check-in Easy is great for, because then we really know where our empty seats are.
Right.
We've never known that. You don't know that with a paper form. It's all about, it requires eyes. And do you have to confirm it in the room? Yes. But checking it, you can take that with you instead of gathering up all the notebooks and figuring that out.
Yeah.
You just take one iPad in with you to go and confirm the empty seats in the room. It's incredibly powerful. Reconciliation after that one meeting took us, a second?
Yeah.
Because we had the Razor's Edge code as part of our record.
Yep.
And it was a simple process that our technology team had handled as opposed to the events team, who's already focused on other events and other event modules in Razor's Edge. So that was an incredible, helpful back-end thing to remove off our to-do list. It was incredibly helpful. But I think, the whole gist of it was just the fact that it made the event so much easier. We had, we worked in conjunction. The Bellagio was really helpful. We had 5 iPads that the foundation owns up front.
Yep.
But we knew that wouldn't be enough. And instead of buying them, because we'd engaged the Bellagio up front about our plan and working with you, they had 9 iPads that they allowed us to use. And they didn't charge us for it because they wanted to understand the process and they wanted to see what Check-in Easy was about, because hopefully they'll be able to share you with their clients in the future, which was terrific. And so we had 14 iPads at our ready to be able to use for the event, and it was amazing. So
on your, just because this is a question we get a lot. So you had 1,000 people, and I guess this was your first year. You might tweak it a little bit next year, but you had 1,000 people kind of at your front gate to just enter. You had 9 iPads.
Yes.
And there was really no line. I mean, did that move really smooth?
Yeah, it was terrific. There was no line, and the guests were thrilled. One, they loved the fact that they felt like they were at eye level with the students.
Yeah.
And they could engage with the students, and it was quick and easy. And 2, they loved the fact that it's just going to events. That's always such a cumbersome thing. I hate it when our incredible VIP donors, people who are, Steve Wynn and Lane Wynn and guess who built Las Vegas, Bill
Right.
Boyd, when those, the Fertittas, when they walk up to a student and say, and have to queue up into a line. It's so terrible when they have to get in line in, A through E and whatnot and say,
Right.
I'm Bill Boyd or I'm Steve Wynn. But I'm telling you, a lot of times the students don't know, and our
Right.
staff sometimes doesn't know.
Right.
And this way, we also utilize the development officers as our guests were arriving. They would assist with the process. They would keep an eye on for the open tables and then take people right up to them to check in. Oh, I'd like you to meet Elaine Wynn. Oh,
Right.
Mrs. Wynn, we'd like to check you in. It was that simple. So that way the student that had the last name, they felt like it was, all I know is our donors loved it. And
Great.
you ought to be getting a lot of calls for it because I know we've been getting calls about it. So it changed the way they think about that process. And at the same time, when they saw the students in the room with the iPads,
Yeah.
that let them know that they had additional support. So it was great.
Great.
It's the single biggest change we've had in our events
Yeah.
that we've made to our events that worked exactly how it said it would, and then some. Normally when you make a big change when you do events, there's always some sort of hang up, some sort of snafu. Things don't work the way
Yeah.
they say they will. They're just, I mean, you did it. It was great. And we were so incredibly thrilled. And I think people were blown away about it. And they were also thrilled. We feel like here at UNLV, since we are, we're hospitality, innovation, really at the heart of it,
Yep.
that here at UNLV, we need to be at the heart of hospitality innovation as well.
Totally.
And so you gave us the ability to do that, and it was incredibly affordable. It was incredibly simple.
Good.
You couldn't have been more gracious and easy to deal with. I know we had a lot of questions in the front, but I'll tell you, our IT guys are absolutely the ones that say we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it.
Yeah.
And you blew them away, and they completely said we could do
I
it.
say it's called check-in easy, not check-in hard.
Exactly. So when you've got technology guys that say that we
Yeah.
can make these kind of changes for an event of this magnitude, then that's half the battle.
That's great.
So they were thrilled. I mean, another thing that's hard for us is Razor's Edge is just difficult. And so normally at some point in the process, like a day after RSVPs come in, I take everything offline and I manage it from an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
This year, we were able to keep it in RE and try to find some additional strength. So it helped us sort of learn more about some of what it offers, which isn't much. But
Right.
up till about noon the day of the event, we downloaded because we knew exactly what we needed to upload into Check-in Easy. And we built so much intelligence into the codes that we use, and we trained everybody on how to use Razor's Edge. I actually taught a class for the hotel school students to know what they were in for. But we were able to upload the information about, I said we pulled it out of RE at noon, so it was in Check-in Easy at, 12:02, and we were ready, and so everything from that point we added in, so it was really incredible. I
That's awesome.
can't say enough good things about it.
Thank you. All right, well, this was fantastic. I think people watching this will definitely get a good sense of using it for colleges and universities, especially a lot of our clients use Razor's Edge or another kind of CRM system like it. And, I mean, thank you so much for your time. This is great.
It's my pleasure, and we love working with you.
Same here, same here. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon for your next one.
I hope so. Yeah, we've got an estate jewelry auction that we're going to be doing on December 3rd. That is a whole nother process. So yes, we will be in touch.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Tori. Thank you so much.